Hi, I'm Caden, here with my brother,
Cal,
and you're watching Eating W's.
eat the W.
That's a W. Let's eat one. Let's eat one. That's a W.
On today's episode of Eating W's, we have our NFL Week 12 prediction episode. But before we jump into those predictions, just a quick update on Cal and I's head-to-head pick'em game. He had another better week than me, which led to a tie. He picked up 12 last week while I only picked up 8, which was all that was needed to close the gap. We are now tied at 103 each. So we are back at an even playing field, 0-0 again, no advantages going into this week. And man, do we have a garbage week of NFL football to start on that even playing field. There is so many awful matchups this week, 0 bye weeks, so it's really like we're at week 1 again. But there might as well be some bye weeks because there is not much to watch this week, to say the least. It's going to be a tough week of NFL football.
Tough week of pick'em too.
But we're going to pick them and we're going to watch them either way. So let's jump right into them, starting with the Thursday night games. So just Thursday games, I should say, not Thursday night games, because it is, of course, Thanksgiving. Starting with the Bills heading to Detroit to take on the Lions. And we got a split here. Callan picked the Lions in this one. I have the Bills. Now for the Bills, this is almost going to be a home game, it's going to feel like, because they just played in Detroit last week.
Yep.
Their home stadium got snowed out, so they played last week in Detroit at Ford Field. And now they're going to be right back there playing at Ford Field again. So they're going to be used to the atmosphere a little bit more already, used to the turf and everything. They might have just stayed there for this whole week of practice. Who knows? I mean, if you're going to be playing at the same place 2 weeks in a row, you might as well just hang out there.
Especially on such short notice.
Exactly.
From Sunday to Thursday.
But I got the Bills in this one. Pretty obvious why. I don't have a ton to say about it. The Lions have been on quite a hot streak. I have to hand it to them. And the Bills have been on quite the opposite of a hot streak. They picked up a win last week, but it still wasn't the prettiest win by any means. But I still think they're going to come out. They're still going to be the absolute AFC powerhouse that they are, and they're going to beat up on a still developing Lions team.
I don't know. I'm rolling with the Lions hot streak. I think that they're going to go in and defend their home. They're not going to like that the Bills came in there, made themselves at home, and I think Detroit's going to go in there and bite off their kneecaps on Thanksgiving.
They ain't eating turkey. They're eating kneecaps on Thanksgiving. I thought about doing it, but I just couldn't quite. I had to stick with the Bills. Next up, we have the middle Thursday game, a divisional matchup with the New York Giants heading to Dallas to take on the Cowboys. And surprisingly, we agree, but with the Giants. Callan has the Giants, and I have the Giants as my lock. Now, the Giants, of course, just got kind of stomped by the Lions last week, and the Cowboys kind of stomped the Vikings. Not kind of, very much stomped the Vikings last week. So it's kind of funny that we both picked this team that are on two different directions, but I don't think the Cowboys are near the team as they looked last week. And I don't think that the Giants are near as bad as they looked last week against the Lions. I think we're going to see Saquon kind of pick back up and really show himself again. We're going to see Daniel Jones be able to pick up that passing game a little more, even if the Giants find a way to shut down Saquon. And I don't think we're going to see near anything like there was last week in Dallas with the Cowboys.
No, it probably won't be as many points scored by Dallas this week. 40 is a lot of points to score, and that was on quite an anomaly of a game, I believe. But I think that the Giants are going to be able to win this one. They have quite the running game to go with it, and if I learned anything from the Packers-Cowboys game, is that the Giant is that you can run on the Dallas defense and slow down that pass rush. And I believe the Giants will be able to get that rushing game going.
It's really going to be the main factor. If Saquon goes over 120 some yards, I think the Giants really got a chance. But if they can shut him down, I'd like to say Daniel Jones is going to be able to pick up where he left off, but I don't know about that. Next up, we have the New England Patriots heading to Minnesota to take on the Vikings for Thursday night football. And we again agree, we both have the Vikings in this one. I think that we are going to see a whole different team there in Minnesota after getting stomped at home last week. I truly think that that was our one catastrophe, full implosion game of the year. And we're going to look more like an actual NFL team this week. Makes me a little bit nervous that we're in prime time, but the Patriots have definitely shown me nothing to make me think that they're going to be too much of a competition anyways. So I see the Vikings having a little bit of a get-right game at home on Thanksgiving.
Yeah, this is a team where this is a game where both teams scored only 3 offensive points last week. So hopefully there can be some more touchdowns and field goals in this game. I believe the Vikings are going to win just because, like I said earlier, the game last week was a bit of an anomaly, I believe. They are much better than that, and I believe they're going to show how much better they are with this Thursday night game against the Patriots.
Yeah, this is actually going to be a really fun game. I'm excited to watch this one. Next up, we have an NFC matchup with the Atlanta Falcons heading to Washington to take on the Commanders, and we agree yet again. We both have the Falcons, and Callan has the Falcons as his lock.
As my upset.
Upset, rather. Yes.
Yep, I have the Falcons as my upset because the Commies are also on a bit of a hot streak and are favored in this one. And I believe that the Falcons are going to keep their playoff hopes alive and those division hopes alive. They're only one game behind the Tampa Bay Buccaneers for the lead in the NFC South, but with a 5-5 record. So they very much are still alive in that division, and they need to keep winning games to stay alive.
I'm a big Davis Mills fan, but I don't know if I can quite call what the Commanders are on a hot streak. You might have to calm down a little bit there, but they did have a huge win last week against the Texans, but I do have the Falcons in this one for a very similar reason. They know that NFC South is a more than winnable division right now. It's pretty even record-wise. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers are on a total fall from grace. So that's going to bring a lot of motivation. They showed that they can finish close games last week against the Bears. And now they're going to be on the road against a really good defensive line. So that's going to be the key matchup. It's the Commanders' pass rush versus the Falcons' so-so offensive line. But nevertheless, I think it'll be close, but I see the Falcons pulling out a win here.
And one thing about the Commanders, they get Chase Young back. It'll be his first game back since he tore his ACL in Week 10 of last year.
Luckily, they got that running quarterback because Mariota might spend some time running for his life this week. Next up, we have our game of the week, an AFC matchup with the Baltimore Ravens heading to Jacksonville to take on the Jaguars. And yet again, we agree. We both have the Ravens in this one.
Yeah, I think the Ravens will handle the Jags pretty soundly. The Jags are a rebuilding kind of team. They've been in some good games, fought some tough games, definitely better and improvement from last season. But the Ravens are just too much of a complete team with their rushing attack and passing game with Mark Andrews. It'll just be too much for the Jaguars to overcome and beat the Ravens.
I really struggled to pick this game. That's kind of why I made it the game of the week.
It'll be a good one to watch.
It's going to be a hell of a matchup. Jaguars had an extra week to prepare. They're coming off of a bye week last week, and the Ravens are coming off of a week where they really struggled against a team that shouldn't have been even a competition with them in the Carolina Panthers. They ended up pulling away a little bit at the end and showing themselves. But, you see those cracks in the armor sometimes, and it's just really interesting to think about if maybe they actually are showing those cracks or if they maybe just looked over a lesser opponent. But nevertheless, I think that the Ravens are going to find themselves again and really lean on that run game. They didn't have Gus Edwards last week, and I think they will have him again. And Gus Edwards is a player I really like. I just think he fits that Baltimore offense. So I see the Ravens pulling out a win in a close game here. Next up, we have a game where we both picked our lock, which doesn't happen as often as it seems it should happen.
That's never a good sign.
But we have the Los Angeles Rams heading to Kansas City to take on the Kansas City Chiefs. And Cal and I both have the Chiefs in this one. And as I just said, we both have them as our lock. Pretty obvious why you picked the Chiefs in this one here, so it makes sense we both have them as the lock. The Rams just look like they cannot do anything. Even with Cooper Kupp, they were struggling. So they really look like they can't do anything without Cooper Kupp. The Chiefs are coming off of a huge momentum win last week against the Chargers, a divisional opponent. Not much more to say about that.
No, it's going to be 2-0 against LA teams for the Chiefs, I believe. The Rams are most likely not going to have Matthew Stafford, who is in concussion protocol. So it'll be John Wolford going up against the Chiefs, and that's just not a good sign. The Rams really lack any kind of running game, and their passing game has really suffered since Cooper Kupp has been out. So I just believe that's going to be too much for the Rams to overcome, and the Chiefs should handle this one pretty easily.
Yep. Next up, we have another Sunday game of the New Orleans Saints heading to San Francisco to take on the 49ers. And finally, a split between us on this one. I have the Saints, Callan has the Niners.
You continue to not pick the Niners because of Jimmy G. But if you watched the game from Monday night, he had quite the show in Mexico City. He had 4 passing touchdowns, 2 each to George Kittle and Brandon Ayuk, who is becoming quite this budding superstar in San Francisco, to go with the other weapons along with Deebo Samuel and now Christian McCaffrey. So the 49ers are becoming a high-powered offense, and I believe that's just going to be too much for the Saints to overcome.
Why do I pick the Saints in this one? Callan already told you why. I am a stubborn ass. I refuse to pick a team led by Jimmy G. The Saints picked up a win last week, and it looks like they might finally actually have some semblance of a true offense going with Andy Dalton. I think that Alvin Kamara is going to have a huge game. He's been quiet these past few weeks, and he's a guy that once he gets rolling, he gets going. So I see a huge breakout game from Alvin Kamara. And don't get me wrong, chances are slim. It's going to be a close game if it happens for sure. But I actually kind of feel like the Saints can go in there and pick up a win, because as we were just talking about with the Falcons earlier too, even for them, they realize that NFC South is a very winnable division right now with all 4 teams struggling to say the least. So sometimes all you need is that spark, that motivation.
If the Saints win, it'll be because of Alvin Kamara.
100%, no doubt. Yep. Now moving on to our final Sunday game with the Sunday Night Football game of the Green Bay Packers heading to Philadelphia to take on the Eagles. And we agree again. We both have the Eagles in this one. And I'm not even going to say anything. You know damn well why I picked the Eagles. I'm not picking the Packers against a powerhouse like the Eagles.
No, Green Bay just does not have the firepower to match up this year. And I believe that this is going to be one of those 80-point blowout games. Unfortunately, the Eagles really have the high-powered running game. They got wide receivers like Quez Watkins, A.J. Brown. I mean, I was going to say Dallas Goedert, but Goddard's out.
He'll still be out, yep.
Yeah, but still, I just think it's too much for the Packers to overcome. That defensive line for the Eagles is proven to be one of the best in the NFL, and that's going to be a really, really, really tough matchup for the Packers offensive line.
Yep. And then finally, we got our Monday Night Football game, a not great matchup, but should be fun to watch, with the Pittsburgh Steelers heading to Indianapolis to take on the Colts. And to fit the theme of the episode, Cal and I finished by agreeing again. We both have the Colts in this one.
Yeah, Jeff Saturday's on a bit of a hot streak also. I mean, he did lose last week to the high-powered Eagles team, but they put up one hell of a fight and had them down right to the very end. But the Steelers are just a rebuilding team. The Colts kind of are too. I'm not sure what they're doing with the whole coaching staff thing, but they have the players and the talent is there. They're not so much in rebuild mode. It's just if they can keep their players healthy. And I believe that they will have a healthy Jonathan Taylor to help lead them against the Steelers.
Yeah, the Colts are a real coin toss of a team right now, because like Callan said, you don't know what they're doing. They're kind of like the Seahawks were at the beginning of the year, where they keep their head coach and then get rid of their roster. The Colts are in the dead opposite situation, where they keep their pretty stellar roster intact, but then fire their head coach and bring in this guy who's never coached before. But then this guy who's never coached before comes in and picks up a win against a struggling Raiders team, and then almost beats what's arguably the best team in the NFL right now in the Eagles. So why not go in there and really get another kind of prove-it win against the Pittsburgh Steelers team who's been on the up and up recently, and show that maybe they aren't as out of it as people think they are, and maybe they actually can be a real team even with an interim head coach. Same way the Raiders did last year. So we've already seen it happen once. Why not see history repeat itself and have it happen again?
And you have to wonder, if the Colts do get to the playoffs, do they keep Jeff Saturday?
The Raiders sure didn't.
Well, they went the other way, and it's not paying off for them.
Yeah, not at all. But that was our predictions for NFL Week 12. Thank you all so much for watching. And until next time, don't forget
To eat the W